All right, Colonel G.E. Cockrell here with Pastor Gerald Dorris, and this is our Reformation recap. We looked at, Pastor Jerry took us through one of Jesus' most popular miracles, the feeding of the 5,000, as we're going through the book of Mark. This is not, Jerry, what you typically hear when this sermon is preached.
You mean how I present it?
Exactly, right?
How the text presents itself?
Typically what you hear, right, is the apostles didn't have enough faith, right, to feed the 5,000. They're sending them out, and Jesus has to step in and save the day in that regard. That's...
Yeah. I don't know, the faith movement, they abuse the book of Mark.
Yeah.
And this is one of those passages that they abuse about faith. It makes you wonder, why don't faith healers, those that talk about having enough faith, why don't they ever have a potluck and just bring a loaf of bread and rip it and keep ripping it until you got a pile of bread? Why don't you demonstrate your faith for us that way? Because we could all see that.
Name and claim a buffet.
Yeah, please name and claim a buffet. Let's just do it. Let's have some fish and some loaves. But the faith movement, they never go to this miracle. It's usually the psychosomatic, those kind of things that they claim for faith. But
so tell our audience exactly how you presented the text on Sunday.
The feeding of the 5,000 actually starts in verse 51. You mind if I grab my Bible?
Sure. Yeah.
51 of the passage, which has nothing to do, seemingly, with this. This is at the end of Jesus walking on water, and it says, then he got into the boat. Jesus got into the boat with them, and the wind stopped, and they were utterly astonished. And so the question is, why were they so surprised? Well, verse 52 says, for they had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, but their heart was hardened. Meaning, if they had understood what was being said and shown to them, they wouldn't have been surprised that Jesus was able to walk on water.
For sure, right?
So the passage, it sets us up. There's something that the apostles should have understood. They should gain some insight from the loaves, but they missed it. And because they missed it, they freak out about Jesus walking on water.
You wouldn't think that that's something you could miss, manifesting food for 20,000 people.
Right.
And yet they do.
They did. They missed it. And what they're missing is who Jesus is in this moment, that this is his moment. Because so here, picture this scene. Jesus is standing in their midst. He's the maker of fish.
Yeah.
He's the maker of grain that makes this. He is controlling their situation. He has told them, don't bring food for when you go out. When you do come here, he said they were going away to a secluded place so they could find some food. And then when they're actually there, he says, hey, give them your food. There's a food theme going on here.
Yeah.
Jesus is controlling that thing. He's also controlling the isolation theme. He's created the place where there's nowhere to go to get food.
Yeah, no doubt.
Only Jesus can solve this problem. And so when the disciples, they see that there's a problem, they think, let's send people away from Jesus. Go away from Jesus to be satisfied. And then Jesus says, no, you guys feed them. And he's like, well, should we spend some money and go buy some food? Again, a Christless presentation, they don't recognize who he is in their midst. Sure. This is Yahweh in human flesh. Go to him, ask him. It never enters their mind to ask Jesus, can you help us to feed this many people? And so that's one of the big insights, is that Jesus is controlling in who he is. There's a phrase that Jesus uses. He looks at the crowd, he has compassion on them, and he sees them as sheep without a shepherd. And a lot of pastors, a lot of teachers misapply that text. They don't understand that. When you go back to the question of who will lead Israel when Moses dies, the prophecies put forward that God does not want his people to be sheep that have no shepherd.
Sure.
And so they appoint Joshua, a person in whom the Spirit of God is, to lead the people. So he is the shepherd over them. And we've been studying types and shadows and stuff like that. Well, Joshua prefigures Christ. He's pointing us to Christ to say that Christ is the great shepherd. And here it is on this desolate place. The shepherd, the shepherd king is standing before his people ready to feed them and to lead them. And the apostles are like, nah, let's send them away.
Yeah, right.
So they miss it. They miss the moment. Yeah. So,
and it's so applicable, to our situation, right? When we find ourselves in doubt, when we find ourselves in need, right, so often our tendency is to go away from Jesus and try to solve things for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to looking to Him, the author and perfecter of our faith.
We are masters at setting up programs that provide relief, of the problem,
Right.
But they don't point people to Christ,
For sure.
or that's something that's appended onto it. We don't lead with, hey, no, Jesus. You need to have your relationship restored with Jesus, because if that's restored, everything else changes in your life when you deal with this issue. But anyways, that's there.
Yeah, so we had a wonderful seminar with 20 schemes on Saturday.
Matthew Spandler Davison
issues.
Yeah, very encouraged. I would encourage everybody to listen to those issues on poverty and addiction. It's just powerful.
If you've ever heard of the book, or even if you haven't, When Helping Hurts, a lot of 20 schemes, what they do is based on that book. And you can actually, we'll put a link in below where you can actually watch that.
It's really showing you how to lead with Christ in the middle of relief, and how to minister to those that are hurting. We've got poverty, addiction. So, I mean, this passage plays into that, because these are needy people. Well, what do they need? They need to be at the foot of Christ. Yes, food, but Christ is the food that we, as the church, that's what we really need to be pushing forward and leading in.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jerry, for leading us verse by verse. It prevents you from cherry picking your favorite verses, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they are difficult passages. Sometimes they are passages that maybe we would want to skip over. But when you go verse by verse slowly through a book of the Bible, it forces you to deal with all of these things.
It really feeds the sheep.
It really does.
Yeah, it does.
Jerry, wonderful shepherding that you're providing for the Reformation Church of Shelbyville. And if you want to be a part of our fellowship, you can come out 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings is when we meet. And then 10 o'clock, we always have a great Bible study.
This Sunday, Jesus walks on water.
Good night.
Boom.
Don't miss that one. On behalf of the Colonel, Pastor Dorris, I bid you adieu.